The only difference between the Eagles and the Rams is if we're going to compare apples to oranges here with, Matt said, the Rams had a Super Bowl caliber roster. They just need an upgrade quarterback. The Eagles need a lot for their roster, which is why I'd rather use those draft picks and try to improve at linebacker and try to help this defense out.
You got your Mac guys here on Birds 365. Jordan McDonald, John McMullen. We are joined by a guy who looks like he's ready to move off campus in his Ocean's backdrop there. You slide a little to the left there, Kerr. Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports here with us on Birds 365. Jeff, been a couple of weeks. How's the offseason treating you?
Pretty good so far. I'm not going to lie. I kind of enjoyed last week. Everybody's like, oh, I miss football. I miss football. I miss football too, but I kind of needed a little bit of a break. So, it's been nice. Now I'm making a whole radio podcast tour. I'm actually starting to reply to some emails that I'm actually able to get to. And it was weird. Yesterday I was talking about the Chiefs, talking about the Chargers, I think I'm talking about the Cardinals later this week. So it's going to be an interesting all season for sure because everybody seems to have these quarterback conundrums or they're having these, how can we make the playoffs or how can we build this roster? And obviously it's the same stuff that's going on in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, number one, I would say, Jeff, is I'm shocked you're not excited about the USFL gearing up. That's exciting stuff.
I just ranked the uniforms yesterday, McMullen.
Yeah. Did you?
The Breakers.
Did you go Homer? You didn't go Homer on us, did you?
No.
Did you go Stars number one?
No.
Stars not number one?
No, Breakers were one. I had the Stars too. I always loved the Stars unis, but I thought the classic look for them was they needed to do that. I said I think what separated them from the Breakers was the Breakers just went, you know what, we're going to go against the grain. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually make decent uniforms out of this. And the whole baby blue, dark blue with the silver helmet thing, that just seemed to work. It worked in the 80s. It worked now. But I didn't realize a lot of the teams wear red and white or red and gold.
Wow, I'm impressed with how much you put into this. I have no idea what the New Orleans Breakers uniforms look like to this day. The Stars are not the normal Stars uniforms. They went different. Is that what you're saying?
So they modernized the classic look a bit. They got rid of the sleeve like on the side here. Like they had a gold sleeve. They got rid of that or like a gold stripe. They kept the gold pants, but they have like instead of like a red stripe on the pants, it's like a zigzag type thing. It's like a modern twist on a classic look.
All right.
As far as I know, USFL stands for ultimately cynical football league because no football league works against the National Football League. But good luck trying, guys.
Yeah, XFL's trying.
Yeah, XFL got a little connection with the NFL. Everybody's been looking for that. Where the XFL and the NFL are going to marry up to test rules and things like that in a spring, which I think is good. They need some rules testing. And the XFL was pretty innovative, the 2.0 version. I still say for people that watched, and I know that's probably very few, that kickoff should be adopted at all levels, the XFL kickoff. I really believe that.
I would take a guess that's how this whole thing started. Like, I think they went to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Danny Garcia and said, hey, look, what ideas you guys got? What ideas you have in mind? And they said, hey, and, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has a good partnership with the NFL. So he probably said, you know what, here, we'll share stuff, but you got to share some stuff with us here and we'll find ways to innovate the game. I still think it's funny, though, like when I'm watching Super Bowl 56, when they use the Sky Cam and they use the Sky Box, that was from the original XFL. People always seem to forget that. If you watch a game from 2001, I think they showed a whole game like in Skycam form. I'm like, this is pretty cool. It's a shame the product's done.
Is that why The Rock cut a promo before the Super Bowl this year? Because he's like this now with the National Football League? All right, we'll see if that.
I thought they were going to get Buffer to do it, but they got The Rock.
The Rock just as good. All right, Kerr, I know because I follow you on social media. You got a little bent out of shape. I did, but didn't voice it as loudly as you did. Who was the bright individual that decided to say the top 5 quarterbacks in the National Football League does not include Patrick Mahomes?
That would be Emmanuel Acho, I believe, is one. Was it Acho or was it? I forget. I forget who it was now. It's been a week.
I don't want to. I didn't know somebody did that. So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that I don't want to put that on somebody wrongly. So I don't know if it was Emmanuel or not, but yeah, that whoever that was is just that's a look at me statement. Look at me. Look at me.
And
I mean, yeah, look, I think I tell Jody this all the time, Jeff. I think it's become an indictable offense for some bizarre reason that you can't criticize Patrick Mahomes. He played poorly in the second half.
Terrible.
A lot of people in Chiefs Nation, they admit to it, but it's weird down there because they know he played bad. They know everything went wrong, but they're really upset now. All of a sudden, he's not an elite quarterback or Joe.
Oh no, he's an elite quarterback, but he's not. He's not above criticism. No, but he's definitely a top 5 quarterback.
I went to bat for him yesterday. I said, look, the guy loses an AFC Championship game, doesn't get to the Super Bowl. Now all of a sudden he's apparently telling his fiance and his brother that they can't go to games anymore. I'm like, which is truly BS, from everything I was told. But all these stories are coming out about him. Like they're trying to pin him as like the enemy of the NFL, and none of it's even remotely true.
Yeah, that I don't bother with the social media aspect of it, of brothers and fiancés and attacks and stuff. No, tell me about what happened on the field. And yes, he had a god-awful second half in the game against Cincinnati in the playoffs this year. He's still either the first, second, or third best quarterback in the league. To take him out of the top 5 is just stone cold ridiculous. Jeff, we also had the NFL.com's rankings of all the quarterbacks in the league. And Jalen Hurts came in at number 17 for where he ranked off last season. And it included, just like I said, it wasn't a projection going forward. It was just a production of this year. Tom Brady, who at least as per now, what time is it? He's retired, but that could always change, was in the top 5. So we're not talking about projecting into 2023. We're just talking about grading 2021, not looking into 2022. What do you think of the 17th best quarterback in the NFL ranking for Jalen Hurts for this past year?
I think that's fair, honestly. Was he higher than Jimmy G?
I think Jimmy G was 15. I don't have NFL.com.
He should have been higher, but
yeah. So I look at it this way. I thought Jalen Hurts had a good year. I don't think he had a great year by any standards. If someone would have told me in August when I was on with you guys that Jalen Hurts would throw for 3,000 yards and rush for 750 yards, I would say, all right, that's a pretty good year. Maybe the Eagles have a shot at the playoffs. Well, they did do that, and they did make the playoffs. And Hurts got better as a passer, I thought, as the year went on, and maybe that's because Nick Sirianni changed the offense a bit. This is why I'm for giving him another year. But it's also hard when you have the draft capital to go get a guy like Russell Wilson. The only difference between the Eagles and the Rams is if we're going to compare apples to oranges here with, Matt said, the Rams had a Super Bowl caliber roster. They just need an upgraded quarterback. The Eagles need a lot for their roster, which is why I'd rather use those draft picks and try to improve at linebacker and try to help this defense out. Maybe get another wide receiver in there. I think they should go the free agent route for that, but I am not against Jalen Hurts coming back in 2022.
Well, let me flesh that out a little bit, Jeff, because, and I hear what you're saying. I mean, the Rams made a Super Bowl. They have 2 Super Bowls in, Sean McVay's 5 years. Now they have 1 Lombardi trophy. So we look at that team and say, okay, they're a Super Bowl caliber roster. But, look who they're playing in the secondary other than Jalen Ramsey. Look at who's making an impact at linebacker in the biggest game of the world, 3rd round pick. Yes, they have Aaron Donald, they have Von Miller, they have Odell Beckham Jr., but he got injured. They're playing us. By the time Odell Beckham went down, I mean, that wasn't the plan. Robert Woods went down first, then OBJ goes down in the second half. Van Jefferson, for whatever reason, maybe because his wife was about to go into labor, certainly didn't seem to be playing a good game on Super Bowl Sunday. And then all of a sudden they're relying on Ben Skoranek with Cooper Kupp. I mean, yes, they have Cooper Kupp, who was a superstar, also a third-round pick. Are they really that different, the Eagles roster and the Rams roster? The Rams roster is very top-heavy with superstars, but they got a lot of role players filling in the offensive line. The entire offensive line is a 40-year-old guy and a bunch of fourth and fifth round picks. Is it that big of a difference? I look at the other side, Jeff.
I'm saying the defensive line, there's a big difference. That's where I'll disagree. I think on the defensive line's a major difference because you have a generational player like Aaron Donald, a generational player like Von Miller, who they acquired, by the way. So
yes,
I give them credit for that.
And that's where I said it's definitely top heavy. Look, the top, no doubt about it. The Rams have the marquee players, they have the superstars. But
by the way, I have to point this out. We didn't even mention like the Eagles are free agency yet, but the Eagles are probably getting the biggest acquisition back in Brandon Graham. I don't know if he's going to be the Brandon Graham of old, but you're still getting him back. And I think that's going to help with defensive line. How many sacks did they end up with, McMullen? Was it 19?
Not a lot.
They were 31st in the National Football League, next to last in team sacks.
They had the weird, because they were top 5 in all the advanced stats when it came to pressure percentage and pass rush win rate, and they're bottom 5 in sacks, which like never happens. It was a weird sort of anomaly. How do you get there? I think, and I tell Jody this all the time, I get it. I see him shaking his head already. I think finishing on the pass rush is a trait. I think it's a skill. I think some people have it. Some people don't. Von Miller's a perfect example. One of the greatest pass rushers of all time. Brandon Graham's the example of the other side. Really good player, creates a lot of pressure, but doesn't finish well. I think that's a trait, but I also think if you're getting to the quarterback, if you're getting around the quarterback, ultimately those sack numbers will, I think it was a bit of an anomaly. The Eagles were that low.
Let me jump in here, Jeff. I'll get you in a second. Here's my issue with that pressures and quarterback hurries are just slightly less than actual sacks and all that. Says who? If it's a subjective as to whether a pressure or a hurry is successful, well, then it's subjective. Here's what I know. A sack's a sack. There's no debate involved. There's no subjectivity involved. A sack is a sack. And that's why, yes, I'm always going to prefer sacks over just quarterback pressure and hurry. If someone who I trusted designated a hurry as a successful hurry, a non-effective hurry, well, then a hurry would be important. If we don't know exactly what a hurry ends up downfield occurring, what the hell's a hurry?
Well, but can I say, and I got to get Jeff in, but I just want to, because Jody and I always we're getting Jeff in the middle. We always have this discussion. 4th and 1, Jody, there's an example. Aaron Donald, look, sack would have been great. Hurry.
That was a successful hurry. But there are hurries where a guy completes a 55-yard touchdown pass. Okay, he got his hand on the quarterback. That's a hurry. Oh, and he got rid of it, and the guy caught it for a touchdown, 55 yards.
And by the way, if Joe Burrow makes the play, and like I said, Samaje Perine is a better pass receiving back, who knows what happens, then it doesn't work. Sacks are never bad, I always say. And then I point out this. Okay, highest pass rush win rate, right? Number 1, Los Angeles Rams. They get there. Number 2, Carolina Panthers. They get there. Number 3, Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett. They get there. Number 4, Philadelphia Eagles. They didn't get there. That's why I said it was an anomaly. If you get there and you get there, most teams that get there, like pass rush win rate, always aligns with sacks. This year it didn't with the Eagles. I'm saying that's an anomaly. If they keep doing that, it will go back to normal.
I'll say this about pressures and hurries. My high school football coach, who was ahead of his time on this because pressures weren't a thing, but he would teach us about pressures. And he's an old school guy, but he said pressures get you to play, and if you're a pro, pressures will get you paid. And I think when I look at a lot of defensive ends around the league, they get on Hassan Reddick because he doesn't get a lot of pressures, but he finishes a lot. And like you said, McMullen, Carolina second in pass rush win rate. Hassan Reddick got home when he had the opportunity, but he only made what, $8 million this year? He was probably worth more than $8 million, and he probably should get more on the open market. But he's a guy that he takes advantage of the opportunities when he does get to the quarterback. So I think to me, it's if you're getting there and you're at least getting the quarterback to move out of his spot, you're doing your job.
Yeah, and it helps to have Brian Burns. Brian Burns is really why Carolina is at the top. And, if you have a Brian Burns or a Myles Garrett or a Aaron Donald, that's going to make it easier for everybody else. The Eagles don't have that guy. They got to find that guy. And that's what they're going to do in the draft. I think they're going to get an edge rusher.
I think they should use a pick on a player like that. Like not a defensive tackle, but someone on the edge, someone who can play like maybe even an Anthony Barr type role, someone who can actually.
And then my point is, if you get that one last piece of the puzzle, the rest of it falls into place, and everything looks great because you're already getting the pressures. But
by the way, McMullen, is there any way the Eagles would get Anthony Barr? He is an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get paid that much. I think he's going to re-sign in Minnesota because Minnesota is going to ship to a 3-4. And I think they're excited about turning him into what he always should have been, which should have been a 3-4 edge rusher, more of a, and those things are 4-3 versus 3-4 doesn't mean as much as it used to be. It's just edge rushers, and he should be an edge rusher. I don't think the Eagles, if you think the Eagles are going to move him to Sam linebacker, I don't think he wants that. I don't think they want to pay what it would take to get him at that particular position. But I get it because Jonathan Gannon has a history with him, and he's a good player and he knows how to play. I just think they don't value that position enough to spend what it would get to get him, even though he's not going to break the bank. They still don't want to pay that level of money at that particular position. That would be my assessment.
JK, I want to get your league-wide take on a move that came down over the past week in the NFL. And shoot, I got calls about it on WIP that the Eagles should be interested in acquiring a specific coach. Brian Flores gets fired in Miami. Shortly thereafter, he files a lawsuit against the National Football League because of discrimination, a class action lawsuit, which no one had signed on with him just yet. But while he's suing the National Football League, he still interviews for head coaching jobs, the Texans among them. Doesn't get the gig, of course, but does get the gig this week as a defensive assistant, positional coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team that probably made the most sense to hire him because they've got an African-American coach, and it is called the Rooney Rule for a reason. Pittsburgh has always been ahead of the game in balancing the scales when it comes to coaching hiring. Will there be pushback at all in the National Football League this year? Steelers can do whatever they want. And again, Roger Goodell, I don't think is going to be calling the Rooneys on the carpet. How big a move is this for the Steelers and the rest of the National Football League? I think the National Football League should be sending thank you notes to the Steelers because if Flores had got no jobs and been blackballed, that would kind of help his argument in the lawsuit that he was trying to go forward with. He is still going forward. How weird is that going to be this year?
Well, it is going to be weird, but if I'm the Steelers, I'm thinking I got a home run hire for a linebackers coach, a guy who probably isn't going to be with our organization long because I think he will get other opportunities to become a head coach, which is going to be awkward in and of itself. But I mean, Brian Flores is clearly a better coach than the job he currently has right now. But I think a lot of that has to do with the lawsuit against the league. And I don't think teams wanted to touch him with the 10.5-foot pole. So, but Mike Tomlin, he looks at it as, I got to improve the defense. My linebackers weren't good this year. Let's bring this guy in. And I would think the same way. Like, look, I'm trying to upgrade my coaching staff in any way, shape, or form. I don't care what the situation is. Well, Brian Flores was that, and he was available. But, yeah, I think the NFL is going to have to address a lot of this Brian Flores stuff. And really overall with black head coaches, like why can't these guys get jobs? We only have what two of them in the league now. It's Mike Tomlin and Lovie Smith. And I don't even know how long Lovie Smith's going to be in the league. So I think the league's going to have to address something with the Rooney Rule. They're going to have to do something, and that's what is concerning to me. It's because there are a lot of guys I feel. I don't want to say they shouldn't be head coaches, but I feel like they're getting better opportunities to become head coaches than everybody. No disrespect to the Kevin O'Connells of the world. I think of Kevin O'Connell as that crappy third-round quarterback that the Patriots drafted. I don't know how he rose. I don't know how he rose as quick as he has to
Sean McVay.
I know.
Simple.
I just don't get it. Like,
If you go back to last year and Brandon Staley, it's even more egregious. When Brandon Staley was at John Carroll 2 years before that or whatever, and he's a defensive-minded guy. At least Kevin O'Connell's the offensive-minded guy. He got to learn under Sean McVay. But Sean McVay's 36 years old, Jeff, and he's already got a tree of Matt LaFleur, Brandon Staley, Kevin. Who am I missing? There's a fourth.
Zach Taylor.
Zach Taylor. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's ridiculous. You're sort of, and now it'll be they're bringing back somebody from Louisville. I forget his name, or Kentucky, somewhere to be the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Kentucky's offensive coordinator got the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. He'll be the next in line. That you know how this league works, and that right now, if you touch the robe of Sean McVay, you're going to be a head coach in this league. And
it's just funny. Until about 3 weeks ago, it should be if you touch the robe of Andy Reid, you should get a head coach job. And
used to be. Now Sean McVay has taken Andy Reid's spot. Look, I think there's a lot of groupthink in the NFL. I say it all the time. Everybody interviews the same people. The key is getting minorities in the positions of offensive and defensive coordinator. Then they could be in the position to take that next step. I don't know how to fix it. I've been talking about this for years. Mike McDaniel, you said there's 2 African-American coaches. Does he count? I don't know if he counts. Why can't we get to the point of hiring the best candidate? I know, people of color will look at me as a white man and say, well, you can say that. All right, I can. And I certainly don't go through the same things that you've gone through. But still, at the end of the day, you can't tell me that the best route isn't hiring the best person. The question is, why are we assuming the best person is any race? I don't know. I have no idea. Why can't the best person be the best person? But that's pie in the sky.
Exactly. And, when the Dolphins hire Mike McDaniel, I'm like, I get it to an extent, but I'm like, okay, Eric Bieniemy would work in that role. Why didn't you give him a shot? And I know.
But here's where I'll say about Eric. Now, Eric is a hot button issue, but you might remember going back to when he was thinking about getting the Colorado job. He had a lot of issues in his youth that scared off Colorado, where he went to school, and he was a heck of a running back. And there's a lot of people in this league that were scared off by that and scared off by the potential PR hurdles if they were to hire him, because it would bubble back up to the top and all that kind of stuff. But there are other candidates. I look at Thomas Brown and with the Rams. So here's the biggest egregious part. You bring up Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell brought Wes Phillips to be his offensive coordinator. He's the
son of Wade.
Yes. So now you have minority issues. You have nepotism issues. You have all this into an ugly stew. Thomas Brown's the assistant head coach there. He's an African American. I can tell you, we only got 10 minutes talking to the assistant coaches or so. I got to talk to Tom. He was the most impressive assistant coach in the whole lot. He was more impressive than Sean McVay and Zach Taylor. Now, 10 minutes is 10 minutes. Obviously, there are other things to it. Why isn't he getting more looks? That to me is a fair criticism. I can't tell you if Mike McDaniel's going to be a better coach than Eric Bieniemy. I can't tell you if Kevin O'Connell's going to be a good head coach, and neither can anybody else. So
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable saying so and so's a good candidate, so and so's a bad candidate.
So this is what upset me. People were upset at the guys Doug Peterson brought in. I'm like, you mean Press Taylor, a guy he trusts, Mike Caldwell, a guy he trusts,
Yeah.
Jim Bob Cooter, a guy he trusts. Like, I'm sorry, like if I get hired as a head coach, I'm hiring the guys I trust. It's because I want to succeed. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have that circles, but it was like when my buddy got hired as head varsity football basketball coach at Oxford. He brought in guys he knew, guys he trusted. I was one of them, and it's a 5-man staff, and we all been together for years. We all know each other. We all know what each other's thinking, and it helps a staff, and that's what I think.
Yeah, that's how it works. I mean, Nick Sirianni brought in his guys.
Yeah.
Kevin Patullo, Shane Steichen. The crux of that offensive coaching staff, they're all best friends. That's how it works, unfortunately.
Well, look at Dan Campbell brought in Aaron Glenn. They're close. It's I think Aaron Glenn's going to be a head coach in the NFL someday. It just seems like he's going to be one of those. He got a couple interviews, and from what I heard, he impressed in a lot of them. But he's only been a coordinator for 1 year, and I don't think they wanted to jump that ship yet. But if you look at Tracy Walker and how good he's been with I think a lot of that has had to do with Aaron Glenn and his teachings.
If you don't love ball, you had no chance to get a spot on Coach Sirianni's staff. That was a major prerequisite. Yeah. If you knew him, you were in an advantageous position, but you got to profess to love ball if you want to work on Nick Sirianni's staff. All right. They'll be balling out in Indianapolis next week, Jeff Kerr, and they just burst the bubble yesterday, which means a little bit more access for players to get their own conditioners and agents and friends and the like in to keep themselves in the zone that they want to be in to be able to work out. The NFL tried to make it seem as if, we don't run the combine, and we all know that that's not the case, that they pull all the strings behind the combine. The fact that the agents and the Players Association were able to flex their muscles a little bit and get significant change done here, good thing for football, bad thing for football, or just part of the nuts and bolts of the football system these days?
This one's always been tough for me because when this all came out, I'm like, why is the league doing this? Why does the league try to make things harder for people who want to play in their league? I don't understand. Why can't you just give these kids what they need? Why do they got to be in a bubble? These kids they're trying to make this their livelihood. Make this an enjoyable experience. I know it's the combine. I know there's a lot at stake here, but to me, it's just, I feel like the NFL kicked the hornet's nest that didn't need to be kicked. And eventually the Players Association stepped up and they were able to get some things in. But if I was in that situation, if I was going to the league, I'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to combine. I'll go to my pro day. I'll go where it's safe.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate since that's what we have to do. So from the league's perspective, I think their thought process was this has become very staged. Guys now hire agents who have staffs that prepare them for this, whether it's on the field or off the field, and more importantly, off the field, because I always go back, when the combine started, the mid 80s, early 80s, whenever it was, you knew if Deion Sanders showed up and ran a 4.2 and everybody else is slower, you knew, okay, Deion's really fast. He didn't sit there for 6 weeks and practice like a track star to, peak at the right time. That's on the field. Off the field, they prep you like it's a job interview. If they say this, you say this. If they say this, you say this. We had Chris Landry used to run the scouting combine on last week. And he mentioned that you got to be smart. You got to get the information. So I think they were trying to get the kids in the bubble, not for the pandemic, but to keep their advisors away so they can get more information that's real as far as the antiseptic stuff that everybody's going to do, the robotic stuff. But then again, they created this monster because they turned this into a TV event and an event on the calendar. So the toothpaste is out of the tube. I don't know how you
Now, John,
fix it.
you would know this, right? If I'm correct, they take the Wonderlic test at the combine, don't they?
They did. They're doing away with it. I don't know if they're doing away with it this year but it's going to be phased out really quickly. But yes,
did you ever take it?
yes.
Yeah, I've taken it. I tell people it's not hard, but you only get 12 minutes. So
Yeah.
you got to. It's not processing the information. It's processing the information quick. That's what they're.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're because of where we are in the world, they're going to outlaw that. It might be this year. It's coming very, very quickly. So no more Wonderlic.
Right,
coming.
but teams will have their own individual tasks when they get a chance to meet with players, and they put it together the way that they think it best works. All right, JK. Eagle fans could get bummed out today or tomorrow or the day after or sometime in the next 2 weeks, because today is the first day the teams can slap franchise tags on big-time free agent players.
By the way, nobody's doing it today, Joe.
Yeah. Here's one for you. With Eagles fit. I'll tell you how to get Eagles fans bummed that they franchise tagged one of their own free agents, because there's no one for franchise tag.
Very true. But Devontae Adams is not going to get out of Green Bay unfettered. A guy who I've talked about here on Birds 365 and elsewhere, the perfect match for me for the Eagles if they hit home runs on their two free agent swings, and I think they've got two swings in them at well-paid players, would be like a loss outfit, Williams and Williams. Give me Marcus Williams on the defense and Mike Williams on the offense. I'd be a happy Eagle fan. Go ahead, fill in everybody else at the bargain bin. You tell me I'm getting Mike Williams and Marcus Williams, I'm a pretty happy Eagle fan. Either one of those guys got a chance to be in franchise, either Mike or Marcus Williams?
So I just wrote an article for CBS about potential who could get franchise tag. I mentioned Marcus Williams for the Saints. Here's the problem. The Saints are $75.9 million over the salary.
Very
cap.
true.
So they're going to have to let Teron Armstead and Marcus Williams walk. So there's an opportunity to get Marcus Williams for a lot of teams around this league. And obviously Jesse Bates ain't going anywhere from Cincinnati. So Marcus Williams is the ideal. I've spoken about this with the Chargers. I think they have the cap space. They should franchise tag Mike Williams. Justin Herbert wants Mike Williams back. It makes logistical sense to do it, but they keep talking in LA about they got to improve the run defense. They got to get new guys at defensive tackle. They got to get another edge rusher. They got to get some linebackers. They got to revamp the secondary. So their free agency might be focused on the defensive side of the ball. And if Mike Williams somehow gets to the open market, that's the guy. I think that's the guy you sign. I want the Eagles to draft him the year they drafted Barnett. Obviously, when did he go? When did Mike Williams go? It was what, 12? He went before Barnett. I know that.
Yeah.
But that's the guy that I wanted the Eagles to get 5 years ago. And it'd be nice for them to get him while he's 27 years old and coming off a big year. And I know he's got a great repertoire with Justin Herbert, but he really could make Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith's life.
It's fun to play. It's fun to play with Justin Herbert if you're a wide receiver.
I will say this, though. Even if they wouldn't get him, if he got franchised, there's a lot of receivers in there that I think the Eagles would be very happy with and their fans, like Christian Kirk. There's going to be guys available.
Real quick, we're running late. I know you got to run. At Jeff Kerr, CBS. Follow Jeff at CBS Sportsline. But you mentioned Howie Roseman. The Eagles don't have anybody worthy of the franchise tag. Yeah, they don't. That's because he locked everybody up that would have been worthy of the franchise tag. So, Eagles fans are getting excited that this news really hasn't come out. It's been out there for a while. Howie's a lame duck. Jody and I were talking about it, and I said, well, not necessarily, but
I'm sure they're working on something.
Yeah, he's not going to be a lame duck, period. Why are fans so excited about Howie Roseman GMing in a lame duck year?
Why do fans think Chris Ballard's a better GM than Howie Roseman? That's the stuff I always wonder. It's funny when you talk to other teams around the league. It was like, I'm on a Chargers podcast, and they talk about Tom Tedesco a lot. They're like, he hits on a lot of first-round picks, and it's funny because they say, yeah, but after the first round, he's not very good. And they can't seem to getting a lot of players on day 2 or day 3. Meanwhile, you got Howie, who seems to get them on day 3, but everybody likes to mention Jalen Reagor and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Fair, but all of a sudden, like, I saw someone got on Ruben Frank this year, like, told him Devonta Smith doesn't count. I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't count? It's a what do you mean it doesn't? No, so that's how we're going to play this game now. It's like anything to get rid of Howie Roseman. I hate to tell you this. How many GMs are better than Howie Roseman right now? There's probably maybe, 6 or – if I had to rank
at worst, I got in a lot of trouble saying he was top 5. At worst, top 10. At worst, he's top 10 in the NFL. I think he's top 5, but I get eviscerated every time I say that. He's good at his job, and it's not just picking. It's also building the department, which, as we saw with Ian Cunningham and Brandon Brown leaving, the Eagles are well respected around the NFL. That's how I gauge things. Why do other teams think you're well run?
Why do
a lot of it has to do with Howie Roseman.
All right, let me hop in for both you guys here before we let Jeff run. As John just noted, Cunningham and Brown both get gigs elsewhere. Any rumors at all about who the Eagles might be looking at to bring in from outside the organization to take their place in the structure that is the Eagles front office? Are they just going to elevate individuals into higher ranking positions? We've heard, read, or seen nothing that the Eagles have done to replace 2 guys who have moved on. Have you guys heard anything?
I haven't heard anything. How about you, John?
Remember, they already have Dave Caldwell in the organization, who's an ex-GM in Jacksonville.
Right,
they brought him in.
So are you suggesting he's going to get elevated, or
no?
Is he just going to stay with what he's doing?
Actually, I think that job isn't big enough for Dave Caldwell, to be honest. But typically with that particular job, which is the assistant director of player personnel, so essentially that was the right-hand men, because the Eagles split the job of Andy Weidel, who's the vice president of player personnel. Typically, they have promoted from within, as they did with Ian Cunningham and Brandon Brown. Anthony Patch would be next on the list. That would be my best guess as to what the Eagles could do. But they're always looking at talent, front office talent, as they call it. They've done it in the past with Andrew Berry and Dave Caldwell, as I mentioned, Catherine Raish. They continue to do it. The personnel stuff is on a different calendar. That'll probably happen after the draft, not before it, because their contracts go year to year after the draft. So that'll be the time frame of that. For that particular job, the history of the Eagles says they will promote from within. And the next guy up would be Anthony Patch.
All right, good stuff. JK, always a pleasure, buddy. Appreciate you coming on board. We'll get you up when free agency kicks off. Thanks much for jumping in today.
Always a pleasure, guys. I love coming on here.
That is Jeff Kerr, CBSSports.com, and a guy who fills in for Johnny Mack and co-hosts with me here on Birds 365. So it's always good, even if on a guest level, to bring JK into the mix. All right, Johnny Mack coming back. We got a chance for a guest in hour number 2, still to be determined by his schedule. We try to get Les Bowen on. He said he'd come on, then he got his doctor appointment time wrong. So we'll see if we get Les up. I've got more things to bring up with Johnny Mack coming up next here on Birds 365.
Go.